For contact telephone, please.
Damn, she's not in.
Peter!
Oh, I can hear you. Andrea, you are there.
What a nice surprise.
Yeah, and you too. Listen, I mean, the wonders of modern technology. I mean, you know, we could all do this with a wire, but we're doing this on Skype.
Fantastic.
Which is good.
Taking me...
good to plug Skype, you know?
It is, and I get to see your glorious face. Unfortunately, not moving. It's just a still picture.
Right. Yeah, because we're talking, I'm going to keep the picture off because it takes up more kind of whatever it is that it takes up. Yeah. My tech savvy isn't great, but I know that it kind of reduces the quality if we have the picture on as well. Yeah.
Yes, it will do. It will take up more bandwidth.
That's what I was going to say.
I probably got the word wrong.
So Andrea, listen. So, like, yes, I mean, up until 2 weeks ago, we'd never met and we were perfect strangers, and now I feel like I've known you all my life. You know,
there's a really weird thing happened for me personally after that weekend that we all spent together. Yeah. Something that I'd not experienced before, and I was talking about it with friends. I've got this same group of friends that I've had for 30 years. We've never argued, never, and I adore them. But just 48 hours spent with you guys, this bond, I can't describe the bond that formed. Something to do with, I likened it to my brother who's gone into battle many, many times, and he's described lying in he's described to as lying in a poppy field in Afghanistan with his men, and bullets pinging off the ground literally around them, inches away. And I said, "What was your reaction?" He said, "We just got the most hysterical giggles." And I couldn't get my head around it, but I can now, because what I felt that was, you know, not just the protesting that we were doing at the front, but when we did the raids.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the Dawn raid specifically, because it was very much, it looked like, from what I could see of the video, a military operation of you know, almost, you know, to some degree. Yeah. And what was that like? I mean, for you?
Okay, terrifying, absolutely. Indescribably terrifying, but leading up to it, not a problem. Getting into the grounds, that was when I was literally terrified, mainly because we had to stay so quiet. It was dark. We were up to our knees in mud. A lot of preparation had gone into making sure this went right the first time.
Okay, can I just stop you there and just digress for a moment? Because, you know, you're talking about, like, getting into the grounds. So that brings up a number of different issues that I love to talk about. And the one thing is using trespass as a legitimate means of protest. What's your take on that? I mean, do you know the law on that, or what?
No, not a little. We were lucky enough to have someone with us who did know the law. And so we were confident enough that what we were doing would be okay. Not appreciated by the people whose land we were trespassing, but not criminal in any way. And I have strong feelings on this. I think the right to protest in this country is inalienable. It's, you know, it goes back hundreds of years, this right that we have to protest for things that we believe in. And I've said this over the last 2 weeks when we've been challenged about what we did. I've said repeatedly that in Great Britain we have a long tradition of inventive and humorous protesting, and it's almost smiled upon by those in authority. As long as you're not harming anybody. We certainly didn't harm anybody. I mean,
not at all.
Not in the slightest, and we never had the slightest intention of harming.
No,
The
I've got to
intention,
agree with you totally there.
yeah,
I really do.
yeah,
Because, I mean,
absolutely,
the whole purpose is to communicate to Scientologists and help them to get out and to wake up. On the legal side of things,
absolutely.
we know, as protesters and critics and bunkerites and whatever we all are, that Scientology is a criminal organization. There is no doubt about that. They were
Agreed.
found guilty in France of fraud, extortion, coercion, spying, practicing medicine without a license, and on the list goes. So a little trespass in the face of everything that Scientology's done is nothing if it gets you in communication with those poor victims that are inside. That's just my take on it, you know.
I agree. And there was this one opportunity with David Miscavige in the grounds, this one opportunity to get our message across to him, to tell him we don't like him. He's not welcome. He's not welcome in our country. We don't like him. We don't like what he stands for. And look, here we are. And almost look at us, because we were almost certain that he was watching us on a live feed. And what were we doing? We'd managed to break through his steely perimeter. And what was the worst that we did? We laughed at him. And we had great fun at his expense. He must have hated that.
Well, as an outsider looking at the videos, the worst that was done was Sam sat on a wall and kicked her legs. Okay.
Yeah.
Most everybody just stood around filming and just watching and observing. And John was pretty active, but John was more like a bloody comedian with his
He was hysterical.
turning to the camera and saying, "I don't get up this early for work," you know, and stuff like that.
He was like Tigger, bouncy and cheerful.
But it was all done in a very good-natured way. There was no animosity. There was no damage done. I think even throwing a banana at a statue wouldn't really damage it because it's made of bronze, you know.
And organic matter.
So I'm sorry to digress from your tale there, because I'm dying to know how it all happened and all that. But so I think we've covered the legalities of the thing, don't you?
Absolutely. It wasn't an issue in my mind, and I am not a lawbreaker.
And it wasn't an issue in the mind. Sorry to cut you off, but it wasn't an issue in the mind of the cops either, was it? Because
no, absolutely not. I have to say that the cops on Friday and Saturday were amazing. They were professional. They were good fun, and they got into the spirit of things. And they smoothed our path for us. I have to say, they were more than reasonable. I have nothing but great things to say about them. Even the crew who turned up to remove us on the Saturday morning thanked us for protesting peacefully, and were lovely, really lovely.
At what time did you get up there? Because I heard someone say it was like 7 in the morning or something.
Well, we left our beds at 5 a.m. We were in situ in the woods at, I would say, probably 20 past 6, half past 6. The thing is, we knew sunrise was 7:05, and we needed to be through the grounds very quickly, and out at the statue before sunrise. It just helped us, really.
The timing was perfect, because the photographs of the dawn breaking
some of them are beautiful.
Yeah, exactly.
Sunrise over Stainhill, as you like to call it.
So what was the poppies and bullets like then?
That was at first great. The adrenaline is astonishing, and you know, I'm not the world's most fit and active person, but that was the second time in 24 hours I'd been running through knee-high mud. And suddenly, so we were embedded in the woods, and there was a great moment where we were filming. Someone who was leading us in there had said stop, and he needed to go ahead and check that the route was clear. The sky was just starting to lighten up a little bit. John had the camera, he had the GoPro, and I noticed we were all ducked down in these woods behind trees, and I noticed that there was a little plaque that said the name of the wood was Duck Wood. It was fabulous. So we zoomed the camera in. I don't know where that footage has gone, but we zoomed the camera in on the plaque that said Duck Wood, and then we zoomed in on a couple of the protesters ducking down behind trees, which was great. So that was still quite light-hearted and exciting, and the adrenaline was pumping. But then when our guy came back and said, shh, complete silence now. From now, it's complete silence until we get there. And it's now that if we're going to get stopped or spotted, you know, this is when it will happen. And it suddenly hit me, because as we'd driven up that morning, we'd expected it to be completely dark and silent, very different to the Friday night when we'd left them. You know, when our protest was over on the Friday evening, we expected it to be very, very dark and everything to be shut down, maybe the odd guard on the front gate. But as we drove round the perimeter, it was astonishing. It was like the Blackpool illuminations. Wow. And immediately Sam said, Miscavige is there. There were dog teams, there were police at the front gate, there were guards everywhere. At every little track that led down to their ground, there were big black jeeps with black windows, or black vans. There were men with, like, teams of 3 or 4 men with dogs. And I suddenly thought, you know, crikey, this is serious. If Miscavige is there, which to us, without question, he was there. There was that much security compared to the night before when all the protesters were there, and there was not a great deal at all. Suddenly,
there wouldn't be that security if Miscavige was not there. So why the hell didn't he come out and use his OT powers and make you vanish?
Precisely. Interesting question, eh? Maybe it's because they don't exist. So,
and of course, don't forget, he'd also be slightly afraid of you as well.
I could have put him in my handbag, carried him out with me.
Oh, look what I've got.
Little keyring Davy. I could hang him from a keyring.
Hey, I've got a little cult leader.
Anyway, at that moment, I thought, I'm scared. We had a guy with us, ex-military, who even went so far as to tell us what we should do if we were attacked by an Alsatian. And I won't go into detail because I thought...
It wasn't Giggle then, no?
No, definitely not Giggle. And suddenly the reality of what we were doing hit me, and my legs went like jelly. And I've never experienced this before. And there was this dichotomy of... the fight or flight syndrome really kicked in. I wanted to be back in the safety of the car, but equally I didn't want to let my friends down, and that's what won over. And I looked down and I put one foot in front of the other, and I thought, we will get there, and what will be will be. And I actually thought, ridiculously, you know, I thought about my brother who'd just got back from Afghanistan where he was shot, and I thought, if my brother, my baby brother, who I helped raise, can do something like that, God, I can do this. And that's what really got me through the final 10, 15 minutes of incursion, as I like to call it, to the forward operating base. That was this beautiful little stone. It was almost like a log store. I'm not quite sure what its purpose was, but suddenly, well, from out of nowhere, the sky was getting a bit lighter, and I suddenly saw these turrets. But my God, we're there. We're so close. And people, our crowd, our guys were kind of looking at each other and mouthing the words, oh my God. We couldn't believe how close we'd got. And then we came across this, like I said, this stone sort of maybe log store or something. Silently we were told, it's on the far side, get ready to run. So that's when my heart was racing. So we rounded this log store, and there's the statue. No one warned me. It was going to literally be 20 yards away from us. Wow. And there, between the statue and us, was Janet Laveau.
Yeah, that's one of my favourite moments in the video. Yeah, I love that bit.
Unbelievable. In the same outfit she'd worn the night before.
Actually, she was wearing that outfit in a video she made 4 years ago, but we won't go there, okay?
Right. Right.
That's one of my favourite moments, when you see Janet walk around the corner, because she almost says hi, you know, in that fake Scientology enthusiastic way. And then she realises who you are. And for a moment,
how dressed.
Just for a moment, there's almost a look of admiration on her face.
Huh, do you think so?
Well, it's either admiration or, oh, fuck, what the hell am I going to do now? There's definitely a look. It was probably her mind kind of going into some kind of cognitive dissonance or something.
Absolutely clicked for. First of all, having to accept what her eyes were seeing, because we were all dressed in black. You know, I've got very goldeny blonde hair, and the guy said, you have got to have that covered. Well, I don't wear hats. I look stupid in hats, but anything for the cause. And so I borrowed her hat that, well, anyway, it didn't cover my hair, but we were all dressed in, very sensible clothes that absolutely in no way had anything to do with guests staying at St. Hill Manor or at the castle. So, but for a split second, she absolutely thought we were guests and that she was prepared. She was preparing herself to greet us warmly, and if that woman can greet anybody warmly. So at that moment, I think it was John, possibly Steve, said, split up. So John and Steve moved forward to intercept Janet. And the other four of us split up. Two headed down to the manor, which is where we're certain David Miscavige was staying. It was lit up like a beacon. How he slept, I do not know, but maybe he's used to it. And Tom Cruise, if Tom Cruise was in town, that's almost certainly where. It's just hearsay. We don't know. We had no evidence that Tom Cruise was there, but we know he was there. He's in the
UK, isn't he? Making
Absolutely.
a movie.
Yeah, he is. He was pictured with the, excuse me, Freedom Medal winner, wasn't he? That Tony posted that pretty picture. And then the following night, he, word is he was at the IAS event. So if he was going to be staying anywhere, it's likely it would be in the manor with David. So two went down there, myself and one other. We shot off into more towards the gardens at the front. We hid amongst the trees and we thought, okay, any second now, dog teams and security guards, any second now. I got my camera out and I started filming. And nothing happened. So the two of us crept forwards. I had my camera out so I could see round the corner in the direction of the statue, and I could look through my camera feed to see what was happening there. Well, what was happening there was John and Stephen having a fantastic time. And I thought, I'm just going to join in. Come on, in for a penny, in for a pound. And it was at that moment that all my fear left me, and just this adrenaline. I had the giggles. The adrenaline was crazy. So the two of us moved up the steps just as Sam and the other two came from the other side, and so the six of us converged on the statue at exactly the same moment, and that's where you see the filming start, really.
Yeah, you described that really well. I've actually felt that thing where the fear becomes a kind of power almost.
Yes.
It converts into something you can use. And funnily enough, I listening to an actor talking about like stage fright and how that's what happens with all the stage fright. That becomes,
you channel it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I can fully appreciate what you went through. You really bring it to life. I mean, it sounds like it was wonderful. I'd love to have been there,
Amazing. The most incredible things I've ever done. And valuable, and that's a part of me. There has been talk in the last couple of weeks about the way in which we went about it and whether we should have handled it differently. I absolutely categorically disagree with that.
I agree with you, having heard your account of things and your feelings on it and everything.
We didn't break any laws.
No, not at all.
What we did was highlight the woeful lack of security. I mean, it was woeful. But having said that, I do want to state, for the record, that the security guys were exhausted. It was their skin was grey. They had shadows under their eyes. That's why I think we came out of nowhere and we shocked them so much. We shocked them into a paralysis almost, and they never once got a chance to regroup and actually deal with us, because of course we were like naughty school children. We were everywhere. We were all over the place, and I don't think they ever once had a chance to regroup and deal with us in the way that they've been trained to deal with us. And you saw, Janet, how quickly, once she'd slapped John McGee, and my God, you can't see it on the video, but the sound of the slap echoed around those silent grounds. It was still only maybe 7:10 in the morning when she slapped him. It was such a shock. It was a shock. But anyway, so she did that.
So really,
and I think
like the violence and the criminality actually came from them.
From their side. Their side.
Why doesn't that surprise me?
Yeah, precisely. I think one interesting thing also was that many of the guards, one of them has been identified by Chuck Beattie as Charlie Earl. Charlie Earl, who's OSA Int, and he's been involved. I'm sorry about that beeping in the background.
That's okay, don't worry. It just shows that you've got a life, you know.
I'm going to close Facebook down while we talk.
Oh no, you're okay. Leave it open.
Yeah, Charlie Earl. He was the guy who had the very bright. It was like a 4-barrel spotlight.
Yes, yeah, the spotlight assailant.
It was like, it was like looking at the sun. He shone it right in my eyes briefly for maybe 2 seconds, and I could see the lights. Well, really, for the rest of that day, I could. Every time I blinked, I could see the light.
Are you kidding me?
No, not at all.
Wow, well, that's terrible. I mean, Steve mentions to him, I think, that shining the light is a form of assault because it can damage the retinas and so on. You don't think that your retinas were damaged, do you, by any chance?
Well, I mean, how can you know? By the following day, I was back to normal, but without question, is that sort of thing used to deter protesters, or is he likely to have just had it for patrolling?
I think they probably use it on themselves when they're interrogating people, you know.
Look into the light.
Yes. Now, have you told all?
Well, so this guy, Charlie Earl, he's very experienced at, security detail for Scientology.
Yeah.
However,
Chuck was saying that if Charlie Earl was there, Miscavige was definitely there.
Ah, interesting. Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, he's been high up in security for a long, long time for Scientology, hasn't he? Well, what struck me was that so many of the security guards, and by the end of it, there were 14 of them. Early on, there were maybe 8. There were 10 for the majority of the time that we were there, and the 11th and 12th turned up 10 minutes before the end. Okay, so
more kept appearing, tucking in their shirt like they'd just been dragged out of bed.
Yes, poor guys, poor buggers. But I think that they didn't understand how the law works in the UK. That's why someone as kind of ruthless as Charlie Earl did as he was told. When Steve told him, that's assault, that's deemed as assault in this country, it made him hesitate. It made him pause. He didn't know he'd lost an awful lot of power because he was fighting in a country where he didn't know that, will I get into trouble for this? Will I not?
Yeah.
They know the law inside out in America, and they abuse it to their advantage all the time. Whereas
here's the other thing, and this is something that we've actually we've overlooked to some degree.
Yeah.
When Scientologists do the PTSSP course, they're told that they can confront and shatter SPs just by confronting and shattering them. Well, there was the St. Hill security. Miscavige was on the base. There's a handful of jolly SPs, and I didn't see anybody get confronted and shattered. And I'm just wondering, would that help the penny to drop? Would the fact that you were there, that you were present, I mean, basically that was your crime, you were present. You were asked to leave, you said you were going to, and you did. No problem. But would that cause some of the Scientologists to go, hey, why didn't the OTs use their superpowers? Hey, why didn't we confront and shatter them? It's possible,
You can see on the video. Sorry, I'm causing that echo again.
That's okay.
Let me just press my push to talk, and then
I think it's coming through loud and clear.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, you can see on the video that you'd think yes, presumably, because at one point John asks one of the security guards to confront and shatter him. Another point, he says, go and get Miscavige, get him, to use his OT powers on us to remove us. I think we asked Janet to use her OT powers to remove us. All this witnessed by the security detail, from all the way from Charlie Earl down to the smallest, tiredest, youngest poor kid that had just been dragged out of bed. You'd think they would have to. Cognitive dissonance, I don't know, how powerful can it be?
Our vast virus database has been updated.
Thank you, vast lady.
Okay, Now that's confront and shattering subversion for you.
You can see how prepared we were for this. It started out having a nice, we'll have a nice chat, and I've not forward planned this at all. Yeah, so Pete, in answer to your question, any normal person, yes, but you know who we're dealing with, so who knows?
And I agree. I agree again, totally with you. Like we look at it and we go, how can they not see that there's something wrong? Very, very wrong.
With this
And of course,
picture.
yeah. No, go ahead. Have I lost you?
Sorry, darling. No, I'm back now. Connection problems.
Ah, okay.
There we go. Yeah, there's something very wrong with this picture. Why can they not see it? Well, we know why they can't see it. You know, we're able to use our rational mind and our critical thinking, and they're not.
You summed that up beautifully.
I have great sympathy. Yeah, I have great sympathy for them for that very purpose. And I know a lot of people don't. And I also understand their thinking, particularly people who were in for a long time and suffered at the hands of these OSA types.
Yeah, I don't think we can underestimate that. Actually, that's quite a good point to bring in the subject of one of the people who was there that weekend, and that's Simi Valley, because she, I don't know if you heard the thing that I did with her and John, the interview that we did. Well, it was more of a chat, really. But one of the people who came out tucking their shirt in was one of Janet Laveau's kids.
I did it.
Simi Valley.
Fireside chat.
Yeah. Well, actually, that was all fake. We were just sat in my lounge, really. And even the whiskey was pretend. It was just water, you know. But anyway, no one needs to know
Get
that.
Right? Shattering my illusion.
Well, I realised that we could create the illusion. That's the wonder of modern radio, isn't it? You know, you can create anything you like just with a few suggestions.
Anyway. Yeah, I've just created the illusion that my antivirus has updated live as we speak. You know,
that was really clever how you did that.
Very well done, isn't it?
I was very impressed.
Yes,
but yeah, like we both got to meet Simi, I think later that day, and she told us how she had been the nanny for the very same guy that was there that John was trying to talk to, and Janet. So there was a connection there as well.
Yeah, fascinating.
Simi herself is in her 60s, and I don't think she'd have been able for the poppy fields and the bullets of Saint Hill, but
no, absolutely not. I mean, I was lucky enough to meet Simi over that weekend. She was lovely, very, very sweet. And that comes across, I think, in your chat that you had with her, which I thoroughly enjoyed. You've destroyed my illusion I had hearing the whiskey glugging into the glass. I thought I felt sure I could hear a crackling fire in the background, and you've ruined my illusions. However, brilliant setup. I love the way you did that. But Simi's story is fascinating, and it was even more fascinating for me listening to her talk and describe what had happened to her, knowing that I'd been with Janet Laveau and was it Jordan or Erin? I think it was.
I'm not sure. Was it Jordan?
I think we decided in the end it was Jordan. And we actually asked him, Jordan, John said, Simi Valley's over here for the weekend. Do you remember Simi? And he said, no, I don't. But it's very interesting. If you watch the video footage, you can see him really swallow. It's a real sign of discomfort. It's very, very momentary. As he hears her name mentioned, he swallows and then says, no, I don't know her. And we said to him, it's a real shame that you would say that, because Simi talks with great fondness about you. I thought it was very, very important to get that across to him, that okay, let's assume that he did know who Simi was and he knows now that she's a declared SP. Well, what an important message to give him, that despite that, she's still talking fondly about this kid that she nannied for all those years ago. So I made sure to get that in. And yes, of course, he denied ever knowing her, but I think from his reaction that he did remember something about her. Her name triggered quite a visceral response in him. And so we'll see. But it was fascinating to hear Simi talking. I listened to the interview last night, and to kind of this kind of calm, good sense with which she was talking, and is able to look down the years and rationalize it all. And then I'm looking at the product of what she was talking about, and I don't want to be nasty about any woman, but she is a cold, hard woman, cold and hard. And I thought, that's your child there. He sees you behaving like this automated, like this just robotic, emotion.
Can I butt in there, Andrea?
Yeah.
Like you're a never in. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, if you can imagine the whole Scientology setup as a huge pyramid with wogs at the bottom and then people who first get introduced, the higher up that pyramid you go, the harder, more ruthless, more what's the word I'm looking for?
I don't know.
Purposeful.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Purposeful is the word I'm looking for, except the purpose is absolutely bollocks, you know.
Yeah.
But the higher up that pyramid you go, the more people become like that. And the absolute real ruthless sons of bitches are the ones who are closest to Miss Cabbage. And I saw that, like, when I first joined this wonderful group of people who were always friendly and so wonderful. And I went off to St. Hill for training, and to some degree it was still so wonderful, but I could see, lifting the cloth and peering behind the curtains, that there was another side, and it was horrible. It was ruthless. It was people ordering others about. It was the whole RPF, EPF thing, you know. But I just wanted to mention, like, because you're a never in, that you might not have grasped that you've got to have that mindset in Scientology. You know, I bet even your brother lying in the poppy field didn't even have a mindset like that, you know, and his life's on the line. I mean, he was shot, wasn't he? You know?
Yes, he was. Through the neck and out through the shoulder by a Taliban sniper.
I wish him a speedy recovery.
He's fine now. He was up and on his feet, and smoking within hours. So he's fine. I mean, it has had a longer term effect in terms of PTSD, but that's more to do with the very close friends he lost the previous tour. However, I was going to say, interestingly, picking up on what you said, that it's almost a badge of honor or a sign of success and high achievement to be this robotic,
unfeeling monster.
Yes, unfeeling, emotionless, unfeeling robot.
Yeah.
And it breaks my heart, because I bet you when Janet Laveau was a young girl, was a teenager, that's not how she planned her life out. That's not what she hoped and dreamed for. I'm sure it's not what her parents hoped and dreamed for their little girl. And look at her now, and unfortunately, it's like she's passing this poison chalice on down the generations, because there is her son, who's, I don't know, he was half my age, maybe. I'm not sure. I'm 44. He looked to me to be 24-ish. And I just wanted to cuddle this guy and just say, you look knackered, and come with us. You know, I don't know.
Yeah, he totally just got out of bed, and how long he'd been in that bed, we can only guess. But he looked like someone definitely sleep deprived.
He was stunned. They were all stunned, I have to say, and it was exhaustion. They looked like the ones who'd had the bright light shone in their eyes. They were blinking. They were just like moles coming up out of the ground and blinking in the daylight. I felt desperately sorry. It's weird. I think because I'm a mum, I can look at these people, and because I was a never in, that's also very important. I can look at these people and feel real empathy and sympathy. But equally, I can see what they are. I mean, Janet is a remarkable human being. I mean, she'd make a fascinating study.
Do you realise that they would actually mock you for having sympathy?
Yes, I know. I don't care.
Are you familiar with that awful tone scale thing that sympathies, like having sympathy for people who, you know, whether they deserve it or not, is bad, you know.
It's a sign of weakness, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the whole thing. And I find that awful hard to, you know, when I first looked at that tone scale, I found some of those things, what are they doing there? But anyway, I don't want to get like sidetracked off into that. So if you could sum up the whole experience, how would you?
Oh, one of the best things I've ever done, ever. And it's lit this fire. This I've always been. The women in my family, going back generations, have always been committed to different causes. If I'd lived way back when, I'd have been burning my bra and chaining myself to railings.
Or burning at the stake.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I've always been involved in Amnesty, Greenpeace. I've always been involved in things, but never to a physical extent like I was the other weekend. I have spent 2 years writing letters. I have been involved. I've been very, very involved, and it's been very fascinating and very immersive, but nothing compared to getting out from behind my keyboard and actually protesting. And it's something I'd wanted to do for a long time. And I think I was very, very lucky to be there that weekend when we had such an astonishing result, really.
Yeah, I have to agree. It was a wonderful weekend. It was wonderful meeting you. But here's the thing. So you weren't there the last time the IAS was there, which was 2 years ago.
That's right.
Okay, now here's an interesting thing. Martin Padfield said that the big tent was actually smaller than the one they normally use. Yeah. And I'd been told that they were using a different company, so it wasn't the big tent that they always use, which was in fact a 7,000 capacity tent. And 2 years ago is when the Sun journalists managed to get in. And they said that if that was a 7,000 capacity tent, they estimated that it was actually about half full. And they did it by saying that the front third near the stage was packed. The middle third was kind of like a little bit sparsely more, not as packed, sparse. But the final third was empty. So if you think about that in terms of a 7,000 capacity tent or marquee, call it what you will, then you're looking at 3,500. Now, the interesting thing about the weekend that's just gone by is the Scientologists claim that they had over 1,500, which says to me they had half the numbers that they'd had the previous 2 years ago.
I mean, Pete, you and I stood outside those gates on the Friday evening. Yeah. We got there before people started arriving. We saw every person who, unless, I'm not talking about extras who might already have been ensconced in the castle, actual Scientologists arriving in all their finery. We counted them. We didn't. Sorry, we did. That's something I want to get. One of the an air hostess clicker for next time. So we can actually click people as they go in and get a much better idea. But
we'll do that next year.
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
if they don't move it to Australia or somewhere.
Oh God, no! Surely we didn't frighten them that much. Yeah, we saw this steady stream, thin stream of people going in, and it was a pretty poor showing.
Yeah, I'm definitely left with the impression that less people. Even on the coaches. I mean, previous year there were 40 and 50 coaches. This year there were 6.
Do you remember, Pete? How many empty coaches went by with the IAS coaches? How many? And also the AOSH minibuses, empty.
Backwards and forwards, trying to create this impression that it was busy and full and packed out. And of course, the other thing was that there was a call the week before from, I assume, Miscavige, that they wanted to do 10,000 Scientologists marching into St. Hill. That didn't happen. There's absolutely no, and you couldn't even organise that without shutting off the road and filming it, and
country lane.
Yeah, the photographs I saw of the pipers, there were more pipers than spectators.
Right. We really wanted to join in, didn't we? Particularly when the music started. I love pipe music, very, very stirring. But perhaps not in this respect. But yeah, I mean, remember Sam went up to the I think it was the rugby club which was the kind of official coach park for the IAS weekend, and I think there were 4 coaches, weren't there, with actual living, breathing people in there, which says it all.
There was a rugby game on the next day, and there was actually more coaches there for that.
Of course. Yeah, of course there were. So yes,
worldwide religion has their annual event, invites people from all over the world, and has less coaches than the local rugby club. Oh no, we're expanding like never before.
There were some good-looking rugby players. Do you remember, Pete, actually, going back to the Friday night, do you remember those 3 gorgeous young guys who came over and we thought, who are you?
Well, of course. And
yes,
I met them the next day. We did an interview with them.
they interviewed you. They asked to interview you, didn't they?
That's right. And as we left, little Andy, I forget his last name, Connor, I think it is. The little hobbity type guy.
With the eyeballs.
Yeah, Mr. Eyeballs, yeah.
Yeah.
He was lecturing the 3 of them, and they were stood on the bank opposite St. Hill, so they're obviously like towering above him head and shoulders.
Yes.
And he was lecturing them for talking to us, and we just drove past and laughed. But yeah, they did the interview. We did the interview outside of the St. Hill gates. He spoke to me and he spoke to John. I think.
Yeah, it was something to do with his degree course, wasn't it? And he said he'd been trying to, he's a local. Right. He lived 50 yards away from the gates of St. Hill Manor, and he'd been trying to get in touch with someone there for weeks to ask them, could I interview you for my degree course? And nothing, not a thing. And then,
well, here's another thing. I mean, like I was
there we are with our music and our costumes and our banners and having the time of our lives. And yeah,
totally. I mean, we had fun. But as I say, here's the other thing. Like I was due to do a debate. My internet connection problem signs up. I'll wait till it goes down. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you fine. I haven't got any problems at this end.
It's gone now. It's gone now.
Cool.
Yeah. We were going to have a debate tomorrow evening in UCD Dublin, which is one of the colleges.
That's right.
It's the Law Society, and they've had to cancel it because they actually couldn't get any Scientologists. And you've got this, you've got this like fastest growing religion in the world, but the members aren't allowed to speak publicly about it. Yeah. How does that work?
Yeah. And of course, there's got to be just the smallest of handfuls of Scientologists remaining in Ireland, thanks to you guys and your relentless.
Oh no, there's a few, unfortunately.
Yeah.
If any, like I know when Mike Rinder came to the airport, Ireland's known as the land of the 100,000 welcomes, but he was met by Scientologist women screaming at him and telling him he wasn't welcome. And like, whoa! So when we organised the Dublin Offlines conference, what we did was we contacted the airport police just in case any Scientologists showed up, so we could get them, stop them from doing that. So I don't know. I mean, the debate has been cancelled for tomorrow evening, just to give them a bit more chance to get a response from the fastest expanding religion in the world and try and find a spokesperson. My personal theory, and it doesn't just apply to Scientology and Scientologists, about why they won't go public and speak in public, is because they would actually lose any argument that they could put up. And I think this is why L. Ron Hubbard himself spent his life in hiding and refused to go into courts and remained a fugitive, was because he knew that in a court he would just be embarrassed and shown up and would not, he wouldn't be able to sell his product in the face of the law. It's just
his piece of blue sky.
Yeah.
Did
you hear them when they were interviewed by the New Zealand Commission on Charities that time?
I'm not sure I did.
Okay, that's well worth a listen, because you've got these government ministers who are part of the Charity Commission asking the Scientologists questions about their own setup, and the answers, 90% of the answers are, "Oh, we'll get back to you on that," or the legal jargon for that particular phrase, which was really quite funny, because the more they said it, you could see that the head guy was getting tired of them.
Well, it's rolling his eyes, yeah.
Absolutely. And then they said what the take was for 1 year, and then some legislation came in where they had to declare what their income was, and it had reduced by about 90% again. And they asked them what was the reason for this, and they said, "Oh, that's probably inflation." And it's like, yeah, we know what's going on. I mean, I'll actually go on record now and say I know for a fact that the records that they submit in Ireland are falsified, because I know for a fact that they received a certain amount of money from a certain person, and that was never declared on those accounts. So what happened? Did it not happen? If you are an audited company, then you've got to account for every single penny, and I know for a fact that they've been deceptive. So if a little bitty mission like Dublin is going to pull the wool over people's eyes in that manner,
yeah, multiply
then
that up.
Scientology New Zealand, Scientology St. Hill. Oh, here's another thing as well. St. Hill's registered an organisation called COSRECI, Church of Scientology Religious Education College Incorporated in South Australia. And
in
recently,
a little, go on.
Yeah, you've seen it.
Oh, a little house in a little residential street in, where was it you said, in Australia?
I think it's in
New South Wales. Yeah, and this poor guy, young guy living there, literally no idea who Scientology are, why he's being interviewed by this local news team. Bless him, he looked like a stunned fish. He literally has no idea that his address is being used by this fraudulent criminal organization to as a front.
And I think they're still using that address, actually, as far as I might be wrong, but I think they're still using that address, which means that the whole setup is fraudulent and criminal.
100%.
Which means we could also argue that because because their organization doesn't exist except in this little bungalow in Australia, then they've no rights to anything, because they're continuously committing crimes.
The thing is, I spent 3 or 4 weeks every single day working on that angle, speaking to different people and, contacting all manner of people. And I got very polite letters back every time saying, from whichever government department it was that I'd written to, I telephoned saying, thank you for letting us know, we will certainly look into this. And I just had this feeling that this was one rug, that if it was just pulled, it could bring a fair bit of their worlds crashing around them. And I was cross. I was really furious at...
Okay, I'm going to stop you there because that could be a subject for a whole other talk.
Okay.
And we're talking for just about an hour now, believe it or not. God,
59 minutes,
where did that
59
go?
seconds. Yeah, right.
Yeah, where did that go?
Well, you asked me to sum up my, that weekend.
Do.
It was, okay, so I already said it's one of the best things I've ever done. I'd been involved for a couple of years, really involved, I felt. And, there's a lot of people like me who protest from behind their keyboards, and they're bloody effective. And they're like this worldwide network. And of course, Scientology can't pin each and every one of us down. Of course they can't. But there was nothing like stepping out from behind my keyboard and actually going to the coalface with you guys. The bond that I now have with you all, I love you all to absolute death. And, I'm going to be there at every protest that I possibly can be between now and the end, really. And it just, what a difference. But it highlights for me the difference between the two sides of the fence. You've got Scientology on the one side, who are almost friendless. They're on this little island on their own, and they're practically friendless. They're only friends of people that they've bought and paid for. And then there's you guys on the other side of the fence who are having an absolute ball whilst drawing attention to this criminal organization. And so you're doing a vital job, but you're doing it and having such a laugh at the same time. It's incredible. What a difference between the two sides of this fence, really. And I know which side I'd like to be on.
I think I know which side you're on, and it's an absolute honour and pleasure to have you on this side of the fence. But actually, you made me think back to like when I first began to protest, and I had to face my own personal fears because I knew that there'd be no going back. Once I got onto the enemies list, that was it. And I had to do a lot of soul searching, because I have a family, I have 6 children, I have a partner, there's a lot of things in my life that I care about and love that they could go after.
Yes.
And I had to consider all that. And then I had to consider what they might do to me, what they might say about me, how they might try to, assassinate my character, besmirch it any way possible. And I was prepared for all of that. But by God, that first day I went out, I was afraid. I'll be honest. I was afraid. And I think, again, that fear is what we use. In fact, Do you know, just before we did the flag conference, I was lying in bed on my own one night and I just suddenly thought, what the hell am I doing? You know, and the full enormity of like going to Clearwater where they have the big
Yes.
headquarters. And I just for a moment, I felt myself shriveling up and becoming very, very, very afraid. And then I almost felt the wheel turn, and all that fear suddenly became a surge of power. These bastards are going down, you know. Oh yeah, they can believe what they like, but the abuses are going to stop. The lies they've been told, we're going to find out the truth. The whole Lisa McPherson thing was never finished off satisfactorily. The Kyle thing is an absolute abomination of justice. It just goes on. And I suddenly felt this surge of power and strength, and I thought, oh, right, these guys are going down, you know. And I know it's military talk and all the rest of it, and we've talked a lot of military and poppies and bullets, but
Yes.
it's not where I'm coming from, you know. I've got a big red heart and I'm wearing it on my sleeve, and that's where I'm coming from. I care about them. I actually care about them. As much as they'll probably hate that and laugh at that and call it low tone human emotions or whatever. But we're coming from a good place, and our motives are just. And I think we're going to win. And it's just a matter of time, really. As Tori says, the clock is ticking, you know. We can talk a lot, can't we?
I'm just trying to scroll up and yeah, we can talk a lot. Didn't you find that though, over breakfast the other weekend? You and I, our breakfast was cold because we.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the
So
only
listen,
thing that stopped you talking was
let's
that
wrap
picture.
it up.
Yes.
Let's wrap it up there, because that's a good place to end. And I really would like to talk to you about the work you did on that legal thing, because that really interested me at the time as well.
Yeah, there have been lots of initiatives that have started off at the bunker, actually, and there's a whole network of people there. So, yeah, there's lots of initiatives we could talk about.
Yeah, we have to acknowledge the bunker and what the bunker does.
Absolutely.
The bunker is just like a great place. And also, let's also acknowledge a few more people who are doing great damage to the cult. Mike Rinder, Karen de la Carriere, Tori Chrisman. I mean, we could go on forever. Mark
Jeffrey
Bunker.
Augustine.
Oh, absolutely, Jeffrey Augustine, Chuck Beatty, Jefferson Hawkins. The list goes on.
And
I've not left anybody out. It's just that, you know, we're running out of time.
Yeah.
But everybody together, we will win. And that little short person that I'm not going to name will end up in jail. He has to end up in jail.
He will.
So
I'm touching wood. Yeah, well,
I'll end off there. Thank you for talking to us. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I can't wait for our next venture, wherever that might be.
Yeah, and I love you to death. I love all you guys. So, yeah.
And you too.
Oh, all right. Bye-bye.